Carol Beaumont.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, the budget provides the opportunity for the government to outline its priorities, to talk about what its plan and its vision is. And we saw that last Thursday. And it's fair to say that, like many New Zealanders over this side of the House, it's pretty underwhelming. But let's imagine if every New Zealander woke up and they were in a home that was warm and dry and they could afford that home. Imagine what that would be like. Imagine that they had the security to know that the community they were living in was one they could put their roots down in and participate. Part of a community. Imagine that. Imagine that the children in the house went to the local school and remained there until it was time to move to the next stage in their world-class education. Imagine what that would be like. Imagine where there was enough room in the house, in the home, and that was a healthy place where no one was at risk of getting third world diseases. Imagine that increasing numbers of New Zealanders were able to own their own home. That's right. Own their own home. Wasn't that long ago that was the Kiwi dream. Imagine that all adults who were in jobs were there earning a fair day's pay for a fair day's work. Remember that? That used to be part of the Kiwi dream too. A fair day's pay for a fair day's work. Imagine that they worked hard, that they could get ahead and that they could improve their family's standard of living. Imagine that all of the children living in this country had enough to eat. Imagine that all of the children in this country had the opportunity to develop to their full potential and to get ahead, irrespective of their background and their family's economic situation. Well, imagine that Budget 2014 had given New Zealanders hope that that was the sort of society that we lived in. But it wasn't. Once upon a time, that was New Zealand, but not anymore, not under this national government. Now we know that New Zealand is becoming less equal. The real figures in this budget, the things that underline this budget, 285,000 children living in poverty, a national disgrace. 1.2 billion is the cost of the tax cuts that National gave to the rich. And now we can't fund health and education sufficiently to keep up with cost increases and population growth. 42,000 more people are unemployed now than when National came into government. And 46% of our people didn't get a pay increase last year. Those are the sort of figures underlying the budget, and those are the figures that impact on people, on families. And in the end, that is what matters. We need budgets and an economy that delivers for people. All people, not just some. Those are the sort of priorities and the sort of plans that could have been in Budget 2014, but not, of course, under a national government. We also know that fairer societies are more successful societies. There is a body of evidence now that shows that we all benefit from people having a fair go, from all kids having a great start in life and getting ahead. We all benefit from that. And the social costs of not doing that, of imprisonment, of mental health issues, all of those things, the opposite side of that, that information is there. It is irresponsible to ignore that sort of information. And Kiwis are worried about this. A recent poll showed that 75% of New Zealanders believe New Zealand is becoming less equal. And Bill English in the House the other day just sort of dismissed that. They're wrong. Obviously they're wrong. Well, that actually isn't the reality out there on the doorsteps. When I talk to people, they are concerned about inequality, and not just the people doing it tough themselves. Lots of decent New Zealanders who are doing okay are worried about other people, and that's the sort of society we still have in this country. And the government ignores all of that. Recent statistics, the census, although the government tried to dispute the census figures as well, every time any information is put out in this House, the government ducks and dives. They dispute the figures, they say it's not reputable. Even the New Zealand census showed that there are now 2 Aucklands. Auckland for the rich and an Auckland for the rest. But the government says the census is wrong as well. Well, tell that the people in Mangere and Otahu, whose income has actually dropped by 19%. Tell them that the census is wrong. And in the Mangakiakea electorate in Auckland, where I work, we have got the richest and poorest Aucklanders living in one electorate. And housing is one of the big issues, and housing is a real indicator in the inequality argument. And I talk to people about a range of different housing issues, the difficulty that people are facing getting maintenance done on their state houses because the government is extracting more money from Housing New Zealand. People have contacted me about the fact that there are state houses sitting empty while there are people desperately needing a home. There are people being evicted as a result of reviewable tenancies and elderly people worried that they're going to be evicted. There are people who just have no sense anymore that they will ever be able to afford to buy a home. Access to affordable housing is vital. It's vital for people because they need shelter. But it's much more than that. It's about a home, and it's about being part of a community, and it's about good health and educational outcomes. And so I know that this will be a really significant issue in this election, and I know that across the other side of the House people know that as well. You know that, sorry, Mr. Speaker, the government knows, including the Speaker, knows that there is a real vulnerability on the housing issue because it is so clear. And members of opposite are so out of touch on this issue. And I still can't believe that the Member of Parliament for Mangakiakea, the Honourable Pesara Sam Lotua Inga, felt that a deposit of $130,000, that's right, $130,000 is not out of reach of most people. Well, that's just ridiculous. That is just ridiculous. On the sort of wages that people are earning, to save $130,000, so out of touch. And on the poverty issue, it is really interesting to see how much members opposite want to deny the issue of poverty, want to dispute what's going on with wages. Low wages in this country is a disgrace. People work hard and they can't get ahead. 46% of them did not get a pay increase last year. Well, their prices certainly continued to go up last year. So this budget didn't deliver on those issues. Throughout New Zealand, we see intergenerational inequality. Young people burdened with student debt who have no sense of ever being able to afford to buy a home. Inequality faced by women. Single income families, beneficiary families and working families. Single income families headed by women. Māori and Pacific women. The lowest paid people in this country are Pacifica women, earning little more than the minimum wage, doing important work like aged care. And that government opposite intervenes in the court case where they're trying to get wage justice. This is what is going on out there. Labor offers a different vision. Labor offers a vision where wages will be sufficient for people to have a decent standard of living, where there is a plan for economic development with decent jobs and decent wages. And that government, if you look at the budget, where was any information or any ideas about developing our economy to provide that sort of work? There is an absence of any thinking. There is a lack of ambition about moving forward and lifting the standards in this country and lifting the sort of economic performance that we have in this country. So we want to make sure that there are decent jobs and enough jobs. Let's aspire to full employment. Let's aspire to lifting wages, and Labor will lift wages. Labor will lift the minimum wage. Labor will promote the living wage. Labor will have fair labour laws where workers will be able to negotiate a decent pay increase, unlike the sort of attacks that they will face under National if they are returned in the election, so people have hope and change the government.
I am advised this is a split call. 5 minutes. Scott Simpson.
Thank you.